Yo, what up, High and Wide fam? It's Real Delco Dave here for HW at Night, and I'm joined by the Nick Saban of women's college hockey, Princeton Tigers head coach, Cara Morey. Cara, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I don't think I'm quite the Nick Saban, but thank you.
By the way, nice subtle flex with your husband's Lombardi trophy in the background.
Thank you. I'm proud of it.
I bet you are. So how you doing tonight? What's going on at the Morey household tonight?
It's really quiet at the moment. Everybody's gone to sports. My dog's sitting here staring at me, grumbling, so he might bark. But it's weekends are crazy, and then through the week it gets a little bit quiet with practice. So we have a few minutes before the crazy comes back.
Oh, perfect. I love crazy. I love chaos. So anyway, as I said, the Nick Saban of women's college hockey. How about you just start us out? Tell us about your childhood, how you rose to the stardom that you're at today.
Stardom. I have a pretty interesting story. Like, I grew up in a tiny town, had 1,000 people, kind of in the middle of nowhere, Ontario. It's the white bean capital of Canada, called Hensel. And in my kindergarten class, white beans. We grow a lot of white beans. You make baked beans with those.
Okay, so you grow white beans, make baked beans. Okay, interesting. Yeah. I never heard of white beans before. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, neither had I. So there was like 11 kids in my kindergarten class, and then there was 13 in grade 8 graduation. 10 girls, 1 boy, tripled our boys by grade 8. So anyways,
no, I bet he was a player.
Yeah, kissing tag was not fun. I don't know. I just, because I'm from a small town, I just always played a ton of sports, and I had 2 older brothers. So I just always tried to do whatever they were doing, and my parents let me do whatever they were doing. But so I ended up playing throughout my childhood and high school, like 8 different sports competitively. And actually there was 2 that stuck, I'd say, the most, and it would have been ringette and field hockey. And most people in the US don't even know what ringette is. But back when I was young, girls didn't play hockey because that was for boys. So a couple dads created this sport called ringette for all the daughters. And it's a really, really fun game. But it's on ice. It's like a chopped off hockey stick, just like a spear and a round ring. And if you ever go to like USA hockey clinics and stuff, they'll pull out these blue rings. But that's actually the sport I played. It's really fun. I don't want to get into the details, but it turns into a little bit of like lacrosse and basketball because it's like zone defense and stuff like that. But I played that until I was like 17. I went to the Canada Games. I got kicked out of ringette.
Oh, actually, wait. That's actually something I wrote down. Intent to injure, right? You were basically the enforcer out there going after people?
No, my coach just threw me on and said, "Get the ring at all costs," is what I heard. And
at all costs,
they kicked me out. And so I ended up switching to hockey that year. So I had played like a little bit on and off with my brothers, but like, again, I didn't really get into hockey until 17. And I ended up, they sent me down to London. They're like, you need to go to London to play. And so I played in London, and I got recruited my first year, and I ended up going to Brown University. And that's kind of what brought me to the US with hockey.
Wait, so you got the intent to injure.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then they told you to go play hockey. Is that because, like, hey, listen, like if you're going to hurt people, like, go to a sport where like you can actually throw fisticuffs and just take a time out?
It was kind of my own, like, I threw a really nice body check, and honestly, it wasn't even that dirty of a body check. It was nice. And I saw my brothers do it all the time. I thought it was a clean play. And so I said, fine, I'm going to switch to hockey. My dad always wanted me to play hockey, but again, there really wasn't any girls hockey in our area. So that's why I ended up switching and going to London.
I like how you mentioned ringette. Am I saying it correctly? Ringette? Yeah. So I like how you mentioned that it was a bunch of girl dads that basically created the sport. Like, girl dads are the best. You see them posting their own thing, and they're like, you know what? I want my daughters to play some sport. I'm just going to make one. I'm going to go
Yeah.
out here and just create this sport so my daughters can play a sport.
Yeah. That's pretty much what happened. And it's still like, it's still played in pockets of Canada. Finland was always pretty good at it, but it just died away. Once women's hockey really started picking up, probably in the late 90s, like ring ed obviously started to tank. So here we are, and now there's barely any. There are some pockets. It makes amazing skaters because you don't have to stick handle. Your head's always up. It's like it's a great kind of beginner sport to work on skills, and then a lot of girls switch over to hockey after that.
I wonder if you'd see that more often at the youth level for both, men and women. Like if it creates those basic skill lines of vision and skating, you would think that would be something that you'd want, all players to acquire and grow at a young age. It's one of it would be a foundation for a hockey player, right?
Yeah, I wish they did it like ages like 3 sounds young, but most of us start skating around then that played in Canada. I wish they did it like 3 through 7, because I think the puck is what the little kids really have trouble doing, like just pushing that puck around. But when you have the ring on your stick, like you'd be shocked at how much they fly around.
Yeah, you can focus on different aspects when it's just there on the
Yeah,
stick.
but
Now,
your stick handling gets, really delayed. Like my hands are not my strong suit, and they never were. Just because you squeeze the stick really tight, you lean on it really hard because you basically get the ring off someone by slashing the stick. So almost like a lacrosse where you like stick check, you have to stick check down low to lift the stick, and then the ring will then pop off and you can grab it. So you're really squeezing your hands and leaning on your stick. So the first few years of hockey, it was not pretty watching my hands, but I could skate and I could battle and I played defense. So I got away with it.
You'd fit right in here at Philly. This is why I was campaigning for you to be the next head coach of the Flyers. I was campaigning for that.
They picked a pretty good one.
Oh, listen, I mean, I don't know if Torts will ever come on my show, but that guy is a media darling. I just love his quotes, the way he talks to everybody. Absolutely. But listen,
so I'm actually working development camp next week, and I think he's gonna like show up there. So maybe I'll try to meet him and see if I can put in a good word.
Oh my God, you're an angel. You're a goddamn angel.
I mean, don't count on it. Who knows? He might be way too busy to talk to us, but I think he's going to be there. I think probably if I was a brand new head coach, I'd want to see the young guys that are up and coming. So I think he'll make an appearance.
And I would hope so. And like I said, I think he's gonna be amazing. I was making Cara Morey for Coach T-shirts. That's what I was.
Maybe some year.
Yeah. I mean, well, he has a short shelf life, so like 3 years down the road, maybe. Like,
no, I think he's great for Philly, though. They're gonna love him.
It reminds me of when Pronger came into town, and people were like, "Yo, like, this guy was meant to be a Flyer." I feel like Tortorella was meant to coach the Flyers.
Yeah.
So anyway, what were some of the other 8 sports you played growing up? Like that's just an impressive number to me. I played 2 sports growing up, which is hockey and football. So, and that was difficult. So I can't imagine playing 8 sports.
Well, the system's different in Canada. Like it's changing a lot, and you definitely couldn't do it these days. But we had our school sports and then our town sports. So like I would play in high school, I would play volleyball, field hockey, and usually track and field and soccer. And then one year I played rugby for high school instead of soccer.
Rugby?
Oh yeah, it was vicious.
That's
actually a funny one. So we were a brand new team because we had a exchange teacher from New Zealand. So our gym teachers did like this swap. So he came over and he's like, we're going to learn rugby. And so we're like, great. And the first game we played, it had rained the night before, and we played some other team that it was their first time playing. And so it was like so much fun. It was wet. You'd like tackle, you'd have mud. It like was kind of soft and squishy. And then I swear it was like the very next game. So we had fun. We ran around and it hurts a little, but the next game we played like the 5-time OFSA champion. So OFSA's like all of Ontario. And it was like on a cement dirt patch. And all I remember is like my code word was red, and they kept yelling out red and throwing me the ball, and I would get destroyed, and it hurt so bad. And it was like falling on concrete. And I was like, this is the worst, like no more. So I only played that one year. And that was when I was like in grade 12, I think. So I was already looking at going to the US to play hockey. And my parents were like, maybe not rugby anymore. It looks a little rough. So anyways, you do those for your school. And then for my towns, like I would play ringette or hockey. And we called it fastball, but you call it softball here, which makes it sound so much lamer, but we call it fastball. So I
Well, we
played that.
wanted we want it to be dainty because you guys are
I
girls.
know. But fastball is awesome. And fastball in Canada is really cool. Men's fastball is awesome in Canada.
Wait, so all right, so I fastball is softball, and
Yeah.
there's men's softball. So there's no
Yeah.
is there baseball too?
Yeah, there's baseball, but men's fastball is so exciting.
Interesting.
Yeah, men's softball. It's really cool.
I
Men's
mean,
volleyball in Canada is really popular too.
all right, so I only ever did like softball and volleyball, both you mentioned as like intramural stuff. Like we would
Yeah.
make like our own T-shirts, make our own team name. Like we
Yeah.
were like the Jokers one year, and we just had like cards on our thing, and then we played in a tournament. The only competitive sports I played were hockey and football. But I only thing I know about men's softball leagues are like the beer leagues. Like that's like what
Yeah.
like my friends do. I'd never heard of it being like competitive, like our fastball, like you call it.
Yeah. It was really like I don't think they have it in like well, we call it university back home, but college, I don't think they have it like that. But like our towns, I mean, like it's intense. They jump when they pitch. So by the time they land, oh, and we're also in meters. Like they're so much closer to the plate and they're throwing it so fast with so much spin on it. I don't know if it's still a thing, but I know it was really popular because our coach played on the boys fastball team. It was
Interesting.
really good. I mean, I
Yeah.
loved watching it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, listen, I'm willing to check anything out. I mean, I'm just a sports nerd kind of, so I'm willing to watch anything. Like I even like pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Like I have some buddies of mine that are in like indie like things like promotions. I guess I go
Yeah.
watch them do it all the time. And it's crazy the things they do. So I'm open to anything. I will definitely check out some Canadian men's fastball. I'm in.
I mean, I don't know if they still have it, but I'm telling you, when I was in high school, it was big.
Nice. So you started playing hockey at 17, right?
Yeah.
That's what you said. You said ringette for the most part, you know, because girls weren't allowed to play hockey because, you know, they're a fascist country or whatnot. But
Yeah, our ovaries might fall out.
exactly, they were concerned for your health.
Yeah.
So you started playing at 17, and then what happened when you started? How'd you end up in the U.S.?
It was like my first tournament. I think this lady came up and was like, "Hey, do you want to come play hockey at my school?" And I was like, huh? And she's like, "I coach at Brown." And I was like, "That's a color. I've never heard of that place." And she just kept calling and she was like really energetic and passionate and kind of animated. And I remember like I'm pretty old. So back then she kept saying, "When are you gonna come see my school?" And I said, I how am I gonna get there? Like I grew up in a town of 1,000. We had no money. I don't think I'd ever been on an airplane. And she was like, "It's in Rhode Island." I said, "I have never heard of Rhode Island. Like, I don't even know what you're
Where
talking
is
about."
Rhode Island?
I still have no idea. No. And she mailed me a plane ticket. Like there was still paper plane ticket. So I also didn't know what a recruiting trip was. So I thought she was just paying for me to come visit. And I got on the plane and I went, and then she put me up in the Biltmore in Providence to start, which she obviously didn't know me. I was terrified. This is like a hotel from, I don't know, the early 1900s. And I was like, I didn't know how to eat by myself. Like I didn't know what to do. I just sat in my room. I'm sure it was meant to be impressive, but then she picked me up and she brought me, she kept paying for like all my food and stuff. And I did not know this is a recruiting trip. This is normal. I was like, whoa, like I was so blown away. And I knew I had heard of Princeton actually. And she made it so when I visited, they played Princeton. And they put me up in the press box, which is now all illegal, everything she did. But
None of this
Brown
can
won.
happen today. None of this can happen
No,
today.
can't happen today. But Brown won like 14-1 or something. And I was like, oh, okay, I think I'll pick this school. But really what did it for me is when I went underneath the rink and they had a locker room. And I called home and I was like, "Mom, you get to leave your equipment at the rink. Like, I am going here. There's no question.
I
Like,
don't have to carry this to the
I don't
car
have to carry my bag
anymore.
at all. And so basically that
They
was it
got
for me. I was like, this seems great. I love it.
they got people that will tape your sticks, and I can leave everything here. Mom, it's
Seriously.
amazing.
And then when I got to campus and it was like exam time, I said to Digit, I was like, where are the people who write my exams? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I said, I am in America and I'm an athlete. Like, I know how this works. And she's like, this is not that type of school. And I was like, what? So
I did not know
anyways,
what I signed up for.
yeah, I was like, I thought I was going to the United States. So anyways, I loved it. It was best 4 years of my life. It was life-changing. It's what made me want to do what I'm doing now. I just remember thinking, how did I end up here? I was literally laying on one of the greens and you're looking at the buildings and I was like, where am I? And I was like seriously going, like, I don't really deserve to be here any more than any of my friends that sat beside me in chemistry class. Like, I just remember thinking, I'm so lucky. I'm like I am, just so you know, the luckiest person ever. I just feel like I'm always very lucky. And it was so life changing. The people I met, like, your mind opens up on these campuses when you're in discussions with people from all over the world. And I remember thinking, like, I want to give this opportunity to other girls. Like, this is crazy. Like, I don't know how I ended up there. I still really don't, except this lady called me and said, come to my school. And I said, oh, okay. So that's kind of why I love what I'm doing now, because I get to make these phone calls and say, hey, have you ever heard of Princeton University? Now they do say yes, like a little different than me, but some they don't really know the full extent of how like life-changing it is. So for me, it's so full circle 360 and it's so rewarding that I get to give this opportunity to other young girls.
That's incredible. And paying it forward's a big thing. It's something I'm a big fan of too. But we didn't really touch on her. But Digit Murphy was the one that called you. That was your college coach. She's the one that
Yep.
brought you to Brown, brought you here, kind of set you on your path. Like she's a mentor to you, right? Like what kind of
Oh, yeah.
impact that she had on you?
Listen, outside of my parents, Digit would probably be the next most influential person in my life. And what she did so well was she just kept getting us to ask why not. Like, as you know, we were in the late 90s, early 2000s, and you'd be surprised at how slow things have still come since when I played. Like, I look and I think it's been, I don't want to date myself, but a while, but like it really hasn't come far enough. And she used to just make us ask, like, why not? Why not? Why not? And we would just, we're all like little feminist leaders now. And it's like, pay it forward is exactly what she did. She got us to like think outside the box, push the envelope, ask for, what we want, what we deserve. She just, I don't know. She wouldn't take no for an answer. And it was never good enough just to say, well, you're women, so you go over here.
That's awesome. I'm gonna have to get her on the show too. If she'll do it.
Oh.
I'll bring her on here too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring
she
you
will
back
be
too.
entertaining.
I'll get both of you on here at the same time. Well, you can come back for appearance number 2. We'll bring Digit on. We'll have a good time with that.
Well, you'd be surprised. I think there's like 5 or 6 of her players that are head coaches now in NCAA.
All right, we'll do a whole roundtable then. We'll get 8 of us on the show together, and then honestly, at that point, I probably won't have to say a word. I'll be like, all right, ready, and we're live, and go.
Digit will take it over.
For sure. Absolutely, it'll be a hell of an episode. But anyway, so those were college years, though, right? People do crazy things in college. How was your 4 college years? Anything that went on? Anything you did? Do you have any story that you're willing to share right now? Did you pledge a sorority? All right.
No. We had some shenanigans for sure. But the one story that, so I don't know if you know the name Roger Grillo from USA Hockey, but he loves to tell it actually more than I do. He was the men's coach. What?
I said, so another guest.
Yeah, you're gonna have to bring him on. So he's like he does a lot with USA Hockey now, but he was the Brown men's coach. And back in the day, like, I didn't love the way the schedule worked out. I felt like We always had the worst ice times. And I dated a guy on the hockey team actually. And, I would get kind of envious of how they were treated. And so basically, what would happen was we had this one ice slot on a Monday, but Monday was our day off and it was the early slot. So the guys would just take it from us because it's a better slot and it's supposed to be our day off. But I wanted to go out and use our ice because, as I told you earlier, I had no hands and I wanted to like go work on my skills, but they would always come out and take our ice. So I was like,
tell me you took that ice rink for yourself and just told all of them to stand there.
That's what happened, but it was awful. So I got some of my teammates and they're like, Cara, it's our day off. I'm like, this is principle. We need to go out there and it's our ice. And then Roger, in my opinion, would have them like dressed and they would just sit on the bench and heckle us. And again, I wasn't very good. And like, there's my boyfriend at the time, like just with his head down like this. And they're all sitting there watching. And I was like, it was terrifying, embarrassing, and I was just mad because it was our ice. But they would just be like, "Come on, Cara," because I was friends with a lot of them. They'd be like, "Come on, just get off the ice. Like, let us look at us. We're all dressed. We're just wasting our time." So then I was like, "Fine." And then the next week I did again, and he sent the Zamboni on, and then I got really mad, and I could see him walking down the tunnel, and I took a puck and I threw it, and I missed his head by like inches. And it was a really dumb. The men's equipment trainer came up. He's like, "Cara, what are you doing?" And I was like, so mad. So I called up the president of the school. And it was like back in the day, like there was literally a phone book and I didn't know. So like I'm from Hensel. I just like went through and I was like, President Gordon Gee. And I picked up the phone and I dialed the number and I was like, I would like a meeting with the president. And his secretary was like, okay, how about 3:30 tomorrow? I said, sounds great. And I went in and I met with the president and I like said, this is the schedule we should have. They changed it like the next day, but the athletic department was furious because you don't go to the president of the school. You're supposed to go to like your coach and then the athletic director. And then so I got in big trouble. But in the end, well, I didn't really get in big trouble. They wanted to. And in the end, when I graduated, they gave me an award for like biggest feminist. Basically.
Yeah. What was the award? Actually, what was the award? It was for like female leadership, right?
Yeah. It was the Bessie Rudd Award. And it was like the student who did the most to promote female athletics on campus. And I don't know that I did that much, but I think they all remembered that I went to the president.
You made the biggest statement.
Yeah.
So, no, that's fantastic though. Sometimes you got to rock the boat a little bit.
Yeah. We're really good friends now. We laugh about it still. And I'm sure like my version of it is a little skewed, right? It's through my lens. I'm sure that it wasn't quite as lopsided as I thought, but I shouldn't have thrown a puck at him. But I
bet if you hit him in the back of the head with that puck, and the relationship might be a little different.
Yeah, exactly.
If you spend a night or two in the hospital over that, it might be a little bit harder to cross that bridge.
Well, I did play softball also my freshman year at Brown, so I did have a pretty decent arm, but I don't know.
You played 3 sports at Brown? I thought you only played 2.
I played 3 for a hot minute. Like I ended up, so it was really weird. I just love playing sports. It's like what I would do with my time all day. So when hockey season,
8 sports growing up, yeah, it sounds like that's what you like to do. But a 3-sport Ivy League college athlete.
But it wasn't like 3 at the exact same time, really, because what happened was my freshman year, I went for hockey. So then when hockey season ended, I was like, what do you mean it just ends? So the softball team asked me to come out to softball, but then I understood what spring was on college campuses. And I was like, spring sounds more fun than softball. But then the next fall, like the next year is when I was like, I missed field hockey so much that I walked on sophomore year. So it was 3, but they weren't at the same time. It was 2 mostly through college.
Wait, so what is spring like on a college campus? I'm a 2-time college dropout, so I don't have a lot of experience with that. But what is spring like on a college campus, Cara?
Spring is the best. I think being a spring athlete's maybe the downer. When you're done, hockey season goes from like September to April. So when it ends and you have those 6 weeks of spring, it's just the most fun time. Like people come on and play concerts. It's like I don't know. You just go to class and you hang out with friends, and it's so much fun, and the weather's nice. Finally, it's the best time.
So any shenanigans during spring?
Always. We
You
always had, I mean, the spring was the best time, but we there's not like a ton of shenanigans, but we had this awesome one man band that would come every year for spring weekend. His name is Dave Binder. And the entire school, like the frats would bring out couches, and it's like just a huge day concert. It's the most fun ever. It's so much fun that so I married a Brown football player, and at our wedding we surprised everybody with Dave Binder. He played at our wedding. That's how much spring weekend at Brown with Dave Binder means to us. And like people saw him like hiding, and they were like, "Is that Dave Binder?" And then when he came on, it was like the wedding of the century. It was so much fun.
That's awesome. The wedding of the century. I love it. So anyway, so we're up through college now. After you left Brown, where to next?
So right after this is kind of a sad story, but so I had played with the Canadian national team while I was at Brown. I ended up making that team. And then I graduated 01 and the Olympics were 02. So it was the Olympic year, and there was like 10 defense cut, and I was like number 8, 9, 10, whatever in there. They took 7 or 8 on. So I was like one of the last cut from the 02 Olympics. That was going to be my plan after graduating. And I remember they said to me, like, I was 22. I had only played like 6 years of the sport. And they're like, defensemen peak at age 27. And I was like, 27? That is so old. Oh my God. Like, I'm going to be married with babies by then, which I was.
Do you still feel 27 is old?
No, I was the dumbest young kid ever. I was so much better at 20. I was better at 30 than I was at 22. But, you know, your 22-year-old self is a dumb idiot. So
I concur.
I hung up my skates that year, and I went and I taught and coached at Thayer Academy outside of Boston for a year while Sean was like trying to make it in football. And because we were dating. And then I decided to go back to Montreal to McGill and get a master's and go back and play hockey. So I played pro hockey there and was training for the Olympics and getting my master's. And then the next year, Sean, after going to Europe 3 times, he actually made the Eagles. So
oh yeah, I remember Sean.
I was like, what do you do? Like, I'm at home in Canada. We're married. We're gonna like, I was going to keep playing hockey, even though we were having a kid. Like I said, married and having a kid, like I knew would happen. But I moved to Philly with him because his paid a lot more. And then when they went, so it would have been 03, like it would have been 04 January. They were going to NFC playoffs. And I went home back to Toronto to play hockey, and all the wives were like, "What are you doing? We're going to playoffs." I'm like, "Who's we?" Like, I'm going to my own playoffs. So I took Devin, the baby. We went back to Toronto. He went off to playoffs. They lost in the NFC Championship game that year. I think I still didn't understand what football was at that point, honestly.
I'm pretty sure the year you're talking about, I think that's the year that the Bucks beat us in the NFC Championship game. Rondé Barber picked off McNabb in the end zone, ran it back 97-yard yard. I think
went far. Like, I didn't really know what football was. I remember thinking, like, it's not like it's the NHL, buddy. Like, relax.
Everybody settled down. Settled down here, all right?
Down. It's not like it's hockey. And then he actually got picked up by Pittsburgh the next year. So we were off to Pittsburgh. And that's when I basically just followed him around I was a stay-at-home mom for 8 years.
Good for you. Way to support.
Yeah, it was a lot. And I always tried to stay involved in hockey, but like, you know, there wasn't a ton in some places. So Pittsburgh, I like helped out at Robert Morris for like a year, just like showing up on his day off, helping. And then we went to Arizona for 4 years, and I tried to coach a little bit there. There's not a lot of hockey in Arizona either. And then when he retired, it would have been like 2010. We spent the whole year both at home, and I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, I'm going to have to get a job.
I need a break from you. I'm not going to lie. I can't take it right now.
Yeah, we can't all be in the house 24 hours a day. So I said, I'm going to get a job. And he said, okay. And then the Princeton job came up. Digit actually called. She said, Princeton needs a coach. You got a call. I applied. I got it. And we moved to Princeton. And whoosh, we've been here for 11 years.
So you mentioned being a stay-at-home mom for a decade, basically, right?
Yep.
So my wife's pretty much a badass.
Mhm.
I met her in the military. We're both in the Army when we met. I've been deployed a few times. She was on her first one. I have since gotten out. We've been married almost a year now. She's on her second deployment now, but she's fully preparing to be a helicopter pilot to fly Blackhawks. And
Whoa.
she quite literally calls me her housewife on a daily basis. Like every day I get it in a text message. Like, you're going to need to learn how to vacuum, housewife. You're going to need to learn how to do the laundry correctly. Like, I'm going to be busy flying these Blackhawks. I'm going to need you to handle stuff at the house. Okay, Cupcake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Just so you know.
Yeah, exactly. So I can empathize with what you're talking about there.
Yeah. And we tried to do that too, like role reversal when, I think Sean was happy to retire and finally have more time with the girls, but it's not easy. It's certainly not easy to go from like 100,000 fans cheering for you to me saying, that's not how you fold a t-shirt. Like,
Yeah, 100%. The t-shirt thing's a great reference. We literally argue about how you fold t-shirts.
Yeah. And the girls one day were like, you burn the broccoli. How do you burn broccoli? Like, so yeah, there was a lot of like learning curves, but I started as the second, moved to the first, went to associate head, and then eventually the head coach took the Penn State job. And so they, hired me as the head coach here. So this is the only place I've not the only place I've coached, but the only place I've really coached as my career.
Well, you coached you coached Canada's national team
Yeah.
too, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
See?
So I do like coaching in other places, and I actually coach all my kids at the same time, which is crazy, but it's not like I bounced around to like a lot of people start in Division 3 and then they go up to Division 1 and then they go to a different Division 1, and when I say I'm the luckiest person, like I'm the luckiest person. I got the job at Princeton and I'm still at Princeton.
Well, listen, real recognizes real. And like, you don't become the Nick Saban of women's college hockey by accident. You know what I mean? When you're building a legacy like that, you know what I mean? It's not by accident.
Okay. But a little bit of luck.
So anyway, so we're at Princeton now. Talk about, we haven't talked much about it, as you said, you started out as the 2 assistant. Now you started as the 1. So walk us through that, because you were the 1 for a while, right?
Yeah, I actually, within 2 weeks of getting hired, the first assistant got a head job at Brown. And so I got promoted within 2 weeks. So I'm lucky. And then after like 4 or 5 years, I got promoted to associate head, because once you've been the first for a while, like the other ADs will start calling for head jobs. And one of the ways to keep your assistant coaches is to give them an associate head title. So I did that. And then I think I've been head coach for 5 years now.
You think you've been a head coach for 5 years?
COVID really is throwing me off. Like, it's years versus seasons.
Okay, I got you.
I've done 4 seasons, but 5 years as head coach.
Okay, all right. And that's reasonable.
Yeah. Remember when the Ivy League canceled us?
Yeah, they canceled everything. The whole world tried to shut down for a while.
Yeah.
But you've won as a head coach. You've won 1 Ivy League championship and 1 ECAC championship, correct? Am I correct on that, on those numbers?
Yeah, I think so. We've won a few Ivies. I'm not sure when. I should know this stuff.
You were the absolute definition of I don't give a shit about awards.
No,
You're like, yeah, I know we won some championships, maybe.
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, we won some stuff. Yeah, cool.
Right there. 2019, I think, was the Ivy, and 2020 was the ECAC. I know the ECAC one because I did not know that Princeton had never been in the championship game before. Like, I didn't know that until we were in the game. Like, it was actually, they did a press thing right before the championship game, and they're like, so Princeton's never been in this game. And I was like, what? Never? Ever?
Nobody told me that. Hold on.
I was like, wow. Thankfully we didn't. And then we won it. So I was like, I know that happened.
So All right. So some championships for Princeton. What about the Canada national team, the Canadian national team? How's your success been there?
I mean, that's a really cool experience because you get to work with all different. So it's at least a decade now coaching for them, and I've done under 18, gone to world championships with them. We got silver the one year in Prague. I do remember that. I remember losing. Um,
You sound
I
like
did.
Peyton Manning. Actually, before we go on, Peyton Manning has a quote saying that, like, I barely remember my wins, but I hate losing so much. I remember all my losses. And I'm paraphrasing, but he
Yeah.
came out saying that. Like, I hate my losses so much. I remember them all. So I barely remember the wins. So I get what you're saying with that.
I mean, yeah, the winning feels great because you see their faces. Like I love looking at them when they win, but like I don't remember my feelings. I remember what it feels like when I lose. Like you're like, oh, I let them down. When they win, and when we lose, I lose. Like if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
that's a good coach mindset. I think Andy Reid, who was the Eagles football coach for a long, Sean played for him.
yep,
Yeah.
Sean played for him.
Andy Reid was a big guy about taking responsibility on the losses, but praising his guys when they got the wins. But he would always come up to the press conference. Yep, nope. I needed a better game plan. I needed to make a better decision. Like whenever it was a loss, he always put it all on himself. And I think that's why his players. I mean, I'm sure Sean probably talked about it. I think that's why his players liked him so much
Yeah.
and would play
Well,
for him.
and football coaching is like you do have way more influence, I think, than hockey. Like I would look at Sean's playbooks, like, and when I say look, I mean glance because they're this fat and how much they study. And like it's a chess game with humans. So the coaches, they have so much more impact, especially on game day. When you're coaching on game day for hockey, it's kind of like when you take the training wheels off your kid's bike. Like you hope you prepared them well enough. And if they fall down, you hope they get back up. But like there's not a lot you can do except be like, you can do it. I believe in you. Like
you're not involved in every action. Yeah.
Yeah. You make a couple tweaks. You can help them. Like if they're feeling a lot of pressure from the forecheck, you can like give them some things. You can tweak your special teams. But like for the most part, like in football, you're literally like, punch, counter punch, punch, counter punch, like reading the defense, calling out what you see, cover two. I don't even really know it well, but I'm just like, it's so much of the coach being involved. So I can see why he definitely would feel. If I feel it when we have much less of an impact, I'm sure he felt like the game plan was an issue in football.
Yeah, no, but I think that's a characteristic of a good coach, though. Like if that's how you feel about it, if you feel like you somehow let the team down, well, that's kind of a role you have to fill. Like it's one of the downsides of being in that position, I think, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, so the success you've had so far as the Nick Saban of women's college hockey,
Yes.
like the culture you're building, what do you think you're doing right that's building this program up?
So culture is so important to me, and I always did know it kind of innately as an athlete and as a young coach. But the older I get, like the more I know that like everybody understands the X's and O's are like important, but really it's having the culture and having the buy-in and having a place where like people want to come and do this. They want to come and fight alongside you. And it's interesting that your military, I read a lot and it's so much like that. Like they have to believe so much in what you're doing that they want to come fight alongside you and know that everyone has their back and we're all in it together. And like, I think the reason we have this success is first of all, like Princeton is a high achieving place. So when I first came, like the team was kind of mediocre. It always was kind of mediocre. And I couldn't figure it out because to me, it's the best academic institution. So why would it not be the best at athletics also? I don't think they're inversely related. Like high achievers are high achievers. So they've got to be drawn. High achievers are drawn to being the best at everything they do. So let's find people who want to excel both in the classroom and on the ice. And let's just start demanding this. Like we are great and we are going to be great and we're going to be known as a women's hockey powerhouse. And bringing in the athletes that really buy into that. They want all of it. They want to win on the ice and they want to end up with like the best degree in the country. So I think what is happening and the change and the energy is just this like demanding and supportive environment where we're pushing them outside their comfort zone and asking them to do a lot and holding them to high standards, but super supportive in the fact that we're doing it because we know you can do it. And then when they achieve those things, they feel so proud of themselves, and that just keeps bubbling and building and building and building.
No, that's I 100% agree with what you said. Like, if you want a quality life, you need to surround yourself with quality people. Like, there's been many things written about that. What you want out of life, you need to bring that into your life. So, like, cut the negativity out. So, bring good people around, people that want to succeed. It's going to make you want to succeed too. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
I think that's exactly what you're talking about. Like, bringing in those quality people. They want to be successful in every aspect of their life. So, whether it's athletics, academics, socially, whatever it is, people want to be successful. People want to be around successful people. It's how you're supposed to do it, I think.
Yeah. And at the beginning, you're not always getting like the very top athletes at 17 coming, right? Because you're a program that's not been at the top. So it was also about developing those athletes that are just below that top one. And I think we did a really good job of that in the last, 10 years, like really taking players that were kind of underlooked, like, just under that bubble of national team and developing their game and developing their compete level and their confidence. And then all of a sudden now they're in these programs and now people are like, oh, you go to Princeton. And we ended up honestly like getting some of the top Canadian players that decided, they often look at Cornell if they want Ivy. It's close to the border. It's red and white. It's kind of weird, but we stole a couple of those young athletes. They did super well. And then when they're like, oh, they go to Princeton, maybe I should look at Princeton. And then, we got Sarah Fillier because of the culture we built. And Sarah Fillier is arguably the best player in the world. And so she is going to be a junior for us. She actually should have graduated, but with COVID and the Olympic year, she had 2 years off. And now she's like the face of hockey. So people like, when she picked Princeton, like we had been good. We went to NCAAs. We went to the tournament. We had won, I think, our first of 3 Ivy championships in a bit. So we were starting to turn heads. But when she picked it, people were like, Princeton. And now I feel like people, it's like, oh yeah, Princeton's a women's hockey place.
Yeah, so you had to build that up and you've built that brand. But what was it like doing that recruiting to begin with? Like identifying players, making this. What was it like when you were trying to build it up? Like what was the recruitment process like?
I think part of my ignorance and like optimism, like I thought when I took the job, I was like, who doesn't want to go to Princeton? This is gonna be the easiest job of my life. Are you kidding? Like this is Princeton. And so I went in with that mindset, like, this is the greatest place ever. Who doesn't want to go here? And at first people were like, no. And I was like, what? But I think
Why
also
would you say no?
I know. And I think that's why they started to say, oh, really? Because I'm like, why would you not want to go to Princeton? And I feel like my opinion of Princeton made them think about it differently. So it wasn't like the beginning wasn't so easy as I thought it would be. I really thought everyone would be like, oh, Princeton, oh my goodness. But people were like, that sounds hard. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, but you can do hard things. So anyways, it was harder at the beginning, but you learn to find kind of pockets and you learn to identify which people are going to be drawn to it. And then once you kind of find your pockets, like you can find the better players in those pockets. So it was a learning curve, but it was a big part of like recruiting. I'd say we started recruiting hockey players that were also smart.
Well, I feel like you have to be smart to go to Princeton. Like you can't.
Yeah, but I think it used to be like smart people who also played hockey. And then
so hockey became the priority. I got you. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know anyone's GPA when I'm recruiting them. Like I ask that much later on down the thing. I want the best hockey players that are going to fit into our culture. And if they're the best hockey player, but they don't fit our culture, they're out. But I don't look at their academics first. I look at those after and say, okay, yes, you can do this.
So outside of hockey, I guess not outside of it, but you're also a big proponent of developing women and female leaders,
Yeah.
seminars, counseling, training sessions.
Yeah.
Um, Tell us some about that you're doing outside of just coaching at Princeton's women's life team. Like, what else are you doing to develop future female leaders of the world?
It really kind of took off during COVID when they canceled our season because I was trying to find ways to stay engaged with my players, stay engaged, professionally and keep, I mean, my mind. And COVID was a hard year, right? So I think that I always was passionate about motivating and developing female leaders. I just use hockey as a platform. So when I was a teacher, it was the same mission. I just was teaching biology, but I'm using a platform to motivate, develop, and help create the next generation of female leaders. It's always been something, and it's something that Digit kind of just pushed through down into me. Like it just took over my mission. So I started just like deliberately doing stuff. So I'll do a lot of speaking lately, and it's not just like women. Like surprisingly, I've gotten a lot of calls from like coaches sites. Like I just went to Ann Arbor at Michigan to do a presentation for all the professional coaches in the coaches site. There was maybe 5 ponytails of the 700 people. So it's really become like leadership development in general. But I will go to I'm going to a school in August and doing like half day workshops with their high school girls, talking about leadership. And even I had a professor, this one like caught me off guard. He was teaching like PhD students that were doing biomedical entrepreneurs. And he's like, I want you to give a lecture to the class. And I was like, I'm the hockey coach. And he's like, no, I know who you are. And he's like, what you do with your team is exactly what these guys are going to need to do when they assemble a team. And it really translates. So I talked to them about like how to lead a group and get them going on the same page. And, how to not just like set up your team, but how to basically get them clicking together towards common goal. So it's taken off in a lot of ways.
Oh, that's incredible. And I mean, just talking to you, I mean, I'm obviously a big fan. I've emphasized that I wanted you to get the head coaching job for the Philadelphia Flyers. But no, just talking to you, you can tell you're a natural leader and you have a lot to pass on to everybody else, which is incredible. And the fact that it's taken off that way and you are impacting those lives is awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So we're winding down now. We're pushing up on the 50-minute mark. So near the end of my shows, I like to always give my guests a platform to stump for anything, any cause they want, emphasize, highlight, shout out, whatever they want. So the floor is yours. Any program, whatever you want to talk about, anything that you're passionate about, it's all you right now. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness. I actually should have prepared. Well, I mean, one of the trends that I love that we're seeing that's way too late now is this big infusion of women in the men's game. I think that forever since I was being recruited, it was always natural that men would come over and be involved and coach the women's game. And the argument was always that, oh, the game is just so different. It's so different. Like a woman could never coach the men. But I was like, if it's so different, then why is it so easy for men to be coaching us the entire time? Right. And I would see it in the NBA. I actually went to school with Lindsay Gottlieb, who she coached in Cleveland after she was a college coach and went back. So it's something I'm like talking to her about her whole path. But I think we got to be careful that it's not gimmicky and we're not doing it just to like say, okay, we're putting women in places. They need to be qualified and they need to be making an impact. But I think seeing Wickenheiser get promoted and Megan Hunter get promoted, it is time that we have women behind the bench on the men's side. And that was weird. Like, so when I said yes to Flyers camp last year, like I was terrified. I never let people know I'm terrified, but like, I was like, what if these guys don't listen to me? Like, what if they just look at me like this blonde lady? Like, why is she here? And what are the coaches going to be like? And I thought maybe I should say no. And then I was like, you can't say no. Like, you've got to do this. You've got to like be brave and go there and try it. And it was one of the best experiences because of how the players responded. Because at first it was like I was a unicorn when I walked in. Like they were like, "What is this?" And they had to put curtains up where there should be no curtains. They just didn't know how. There was clearly no women down there. But as soon as I got my skates on, had my gloves and whistle, like it was like I was a hockey coach and they were players, and they did not care. They really, and I was nervous, but they were. And then for me, realizing like these are the exact same guys I coach. They're all college age guys. They make all the same mistakes that our players are making. They need development in all the same areas. They just like are bigger, faster, stronger. But like it was so easy and so seamless. And then the big thing for me, and this might not even be what you were asking about, but like when I was leaving, it was the night of the gold medal game for Canada, USA for the World Championships. And so I said to the guys like, "Hey, who are you cheering for tonight?" And like one guy said, what's on or something. And another guy turned, he's like, "It's the gold medal game." And like, cause I didn't even tell them anything about it. And they were like, "Canada, US." And I said, "Who are you cheering for?" And then they would all say, and I said, "Fine, who's your favorite hockey player?" And one guy goes, "Hillary Knight." And then someone said Kendall Coyne. And someone was like Decker. And then they were like Poulin. And they were naming all the names. And then one guy who was shy turned and he said, "You coach Sarah Fillier, don't you?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's a brand new person coming into the national program, and he knew it. And so that's when I realized like we're at a place where this can happen.
Wait, who is the guy that turned around?
I
you don't remember his name?
Listen, there was a lot of guys and they look very different with their helmets on than when they're all showered eating, and then we're showered and eating. So if you put his gear on, I could probably tell you who it was. It was one of the draft, like one of their young draft picks. But anyways, I was so impressed. And I realized like the sport is now at a place where you see the NBA where they have respect for the women who play. And I think the NBA did that so well. Like the NBA guys saying, if you don't like women's basketball, then you don't like basketball, you know, like, and these guys probably skate with a lot of these players in the summer, or they skate with college players in the summer, and they skate together and they have such respect. And so when I was coaching them, they were just like normal. "Hey, coach," that's all it was. And so I feel like we're at a good point now where we're starting to see women come into the game. We shouldn't be used as like token figureheads, but meaningful interaction and helping out and opening doors. And so I think that's really cool right now. You're seeing a big flood happening.
Yeah, I definitely don't think that the women in hockey are used as tokens at all. I think they're intelligent. They know the game. They played the game. Absolutely. So I think we're absolutely at that point. I've actually wanted to put together a women of hockey episode, like a roundtable, that I would love to do at some point. But yeah, I think, especially the most recent USA women's hockey team made a huge impact. Like they are still having an impact right now with the way they've been involved with the NHL and training and coaching and even refereeing, all that stuff. So, yeah. I mean, I agree with you 100% without a doubt.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's going to be cool to see how far it goes.
Without a doubt. All right. Well, HW at Night, High and Wide fam, thanks for hanging out with us. We were graced with the president of the Nick Saban of women's college hockey, Cara Morey. I'm the real Delco Dave. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight, guys.